Hello everyone, my name is Wendy Myers. Welcome to the Live to 110 podcast. You can learn more about me at myersdetox.com, where my goal is to educate you about the importance of detoxing from heavy metal toxicity that affects so many people today. I know so many of you are taking such good care of yourselves and eating an amazing diet and taking supplements and eating and trying to sleep and just generally take care of yourself and are struggling with your health regardless. And so that's why it's important to look at heavy metal toxicity as an underlying root cause of some of your health issues. But another way to address health issues that you may be struggling with, even if you're taking care of yourself and not really feeling like your efforts are paying off, is energy work. And our podcast today is with Shauna Lee. We're going to be talking about her unique way of working with clients, doing energy work, and the soul frequency. And she's someone that I work with personally and have had such an amazing experience with that I wanted to share it with you, share her new book called The Soul Frequency. She also has a podcast called The Soul Frequency. And I just love her so much. And I wanted to introduce you guys to her work and her methods of working with people. So some of the things we're going to talk about today on the show are, how childhood trauma can be influencing the decisions that you make today, and how energy work can quickly help to break unhealthy patterns and set you free from these, bad decisions and bad compulsive behaviors and other things that can be, as a result of childhood trauma, and what energy frequency has to do with weight loss and how to harness the power of energy work to achieve your desired weight. And Shauna's inside in and inside out approach to healing is really, really interesting. And Shauna's, highly unique approach to working with clients to make changes in their life personally and professionally. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about my Mitochondria Detox. You can check out mitochondriadetox.com. This is a really unique 3-step approach to detoxification of heavy metals that cause fatigue that I developed in conjunction with Dr. Bruce Jones. He's someone I've collaborated with for many, many years. And he's the medical director of my Myers Detox protocol, which I've used with thousands of clients. And we developed a very simple supplement kit called the Mitochondria Detox that, number one, helps to mobilize toxic metals that are interfering in your mitochondria's ability to produce energy. So there's certain metals like arsenic, aluminum, tin, thallium, and cesium, some of these metals you may never have heard of, that actually interfere in your body's ability to make energy. And taking the 3 supplements on the Mitochondria Detox are incredibly effective at grabbing onto them and removing them from the body. So anyone that's struggling with energy, that's drinking coffee all day long or craving carbs and sugar, or just doing whatever they can to self-medicate and to get more energy, these quick fixes that have consequences, you want to be thinking about these toxic metals that everyone has to some degree. It's not, do you have metals? It's really, what metals do you have and how much of them do you have? That's the question you want to ask yourself. Everyone has low levels or toxic levels of metals in their body because our environment is so toxic today, and they're impossible to avoid. So if you're struggling with your energy levels, I assure you that toxic metals are contributing to the problem. Check out mitochondriadetox.com to learn more about some solutions. Now I want to tell you a little bit about my very good friend and our guest on the show today, Shauna Lee. After building a career spanning over 15 years in the real estate sector, selling over $200 million in residential real estate assets, and financing over $85 million in commercial multifamily properties and retail strip centers, Shauna Lee realized that while financially successful, she was deeply disconnected from her purpose and ultimately unfulfilled. She discovered that without doing the inner work, we create lives based on expectation instead of intuition. And after this miraculous realization, she did what few do. She dismantled one reality and created another from scratch that was fulfilling, giving her a unique insight on life and business creation from the ground up. And through her platform at thesoulfrequency.com, Shauna Lee teaches women how to live powerfully and authentically, how to feel great in their bodies, confident with who they are, and to connect with their purpose. And by locating their deepest truths and raising their energy frequency, her clients create fulfilling lives founded on alignment and intuition. She's the host of the Soul Frequency Show podcast and is the author of The Soul Frequency, Your Healthy, Awakened, and Authentic Life. Shauna's gift of intuitive insight is unparalleled. Her by referral only B2B brand has been a well-kept secret, where she has coached and consulted for over 300 individuals one-on-one in the areas of personal performance, business development, and creative endeavors, including executives of Fortune 500 companies, notable Broadway stars, and small business owners. And it's her greatest intention to help others tap into their intuition and create a successful life and business on their own terms. Shauna, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Wendy. I'm happy to be here.
So I'm so happy to have you on the show because I've been working with you doing one-on-one coaching for a few months, and I have enjoyed my experience so much. I wanted to have you on the show to talk about a little bit about the really unique type of one-on-one coaching that you do, and also to talk about your new book that's coming out called The Soul Frequency. So tell us a little bit about what is exactly the soul frequency?
Yeah, so, I'll take you back about how I kind of discovered this a little bit. So I had a holistic nutrition practice, and I was helping people a lot with, their health, but it always kind of boiled down to, I've got extra weight on my body. What's going on here? I'm not feeling good. I'm not sleeping well. I'm tired. What is happening? Just this feeling like my body's kind of coming apart, or it's not what it used to be, or something of that nature. And so after seeing so many people one-on-one, I just started to see that there was a much bigger picture. So we tend to, when we look in the mirror, if our body doesn't look good, we notice if we're not sleeping, we notice if we don't feel good. Those things are very tangible, examples of us not feeling in a good place. And so I saw that going on. And then basically what was happening is, as I would sit with people, I just noticed that there was energy that was not positive. There was other stuff going on in their lives. There were, things that had happened in their past. There were all kinds of other things that were contributing to present day. And so I kind of have a little bit of a gift I discovered overseeing people and starting to see there's something else going on in this room. And there's something else going on with this person that's sitting in front of me that it has more to do than, it goes beyond food. It goes beyond the extra weight. It goes beyond the physical health. And so I started to really dive into that with people. And I started to say, can I just kind of, tell you what I'm seeing and ask you questions, other questions about your life. And so it really started in that way, me discovering with them, what's really going on. And I started to see over time that I was very accurate in what was going on in their life. And I started to connect the dots between things that had happened possibly in their younger life and what was going on today that was so upsetting or irritating or annoying or not what they wanted to be experiencing. And then I saw that I could start to really have a transformational effect on this. And then as they started to transform these different parts of their life, their body transformed. It created a positive domino effect where things just started showing up in their life. I had a client one time who came to see me, and she was really struggling with her weight. And there was just one particular thing in her life that she needed to know to really heal her body. And then she was a real estate agent. And then she came back to me and she goes, not only am I losing weight and healing my body, but I just got a $3 million listing and I normally sell $600,000 houses. And so there's these connections when we look at energy, and that's really what the soul frequency is looking at the energy of who we are and the energy in our life and how that's all interconnected and how it all comes back to our physical well-being, our mental well-being, and our emotional well-being.
Yeah, and I started working with you a few months ago, and one of the reasons I did, I'd recommend anyone to do the initial consult with you that you offer, and I was so inspired after that initial consult with you, no question that I wanted to work with you and move forward with what you offer, which is so unique, whereby you can kind of, predict what's going to happen when someone makes a certain decision, goes down path A or path B or path C. And that's such a unique gift that you have, where you can kind of help people avoid certain roadblocks. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So if you picture like a sun, like if a child drew a sun on a, on a paper and there's the rays of the sun that come off, these are like trajectories of our life. So there's many life paths that we can choose. We can't choose every life path. Like I would not be able to be a basketball player, right? Like that's not in my desire field. I'm 5'1.5". That just wouldn't be possible, right? But the things that we truly desire in life, like really want with our heart, are possible. And they're kind of existing at these different trajectories, which are different streams of possibility in our life. And what I found is that when people are walking down one trajectory, there is a predictable set of things that are going to happen and choices that they're going to make. And that trajectory is a frequency, right? It's a type of energy. So like if somebody has negative energy, you might say, oh, they feel so down and negative. And someone has positive energy, being around them feels positive and uplifting. Well, these different trajectories are happening at a different energy level, right? So some can seem kind of sad and negative, and some can seem really happy and expansive and positive. And what I also discovered is that we could change the trajectory of our life by, really seeing what has us on that trajectory, and we can shift that. And I was able to start doing that for people. But what was really exciting is it wasn't like I had to stay with them for the rest of their life to keep them on this new trajectory. It was like they could change trajectories and they could start to make choices in that energy and walk down that road and start to see positive outcomes. And eventually they kind of are like, I'm good. I'm on this path now. And the same type of outcomes that are more positive would happen for them, whether I was in their life or not. So it's a very concentrated transformational process. And once somebody feels really safe and they're making great choices on a certain path, then that path continues to expand and grow. So I have clients that I saw, several years ago, and they will call me and tell me, like, just like you said, this happened and it happened like this, and then it happened like that. And just like you said, these things started to occur in my life, and it's so exciting and wonderful. And, I haven't talked to them for a couple of years. So that's what I think is so exciting, is that sometimes we feel like we have to do this really hard work forever to kind of stay committed, whether it's your eating habits or how you're living your life. Like you have to try really hard forever. And when we understand our energy, it's not about trying really hard forever. It's about having a profound shift in the energy that we are. And then it becomes easier and easier as time goes on.
Yeah, you and I connected when I met you at Mindshare, which is a group of health entrepreneurs, people in the health industry, health influencers that all come together and help each other and share ideas. And we connected. I was talking about Nest Health, bioenergetics, and we were just talking about energy. And then we connected and started working together. And I thought it was really, really interesting to be able to work with someone that can help you make important decisions. Because I was kind of at a point in my life where I was trying to figure out, what should I do with this business partner, or should I go down this path, or, because it's hard to consult with people that are really knowledgeable about what type of decisions you should be making, what's best for you, what's right for you, what's the right fit. I think people, can have a hard time really trusting their intuition about what is right for them, and you really help navigate them down the right path.
Yeah. And, making decisions that might seem like the good decision today, but being able to see what it looks like 2 years down the line is super helpful. Because sometimes what seems like a good decision today ultimately is not a great decision down the line. And so that's what I help people with. I mean, I do a lot of business consulting too, and work with different corporations because they seek this guidance. Like they want to know, if I get into this business dealing, what's this going to look like for us 10 years down the line? And think how much money is saved in time and heartache when we ultimately know, okay, this isn't going to pan out the way that we expect it to. Let's back off of this now and maybe open up to a different possibility. Because sometimes, the human brain really doesn't deal well in possibility. The human brain likes 2 to 3 choices, right? I can go this way or that way, or I can choose A, B, or C. Right? The human brain doesn't open up to this myriad of like infinite possibilities. So we tend to lock into, okay, I have this option or that option. And we cut off like the other possibilities. And so if I were to say to somebody like, option A or B is not going to get you where you want to go, then we kind of close down those doors and go, okay, what else is possible that we haven't seen yet? And that's where we can bring in ideas that maybe nobody's ever thought of before, or nobody has ever, and you can have a whole team, sometimes when I work with companies, they've got a whole team of brilliant people coming up with ideas, and yet there's just one that's going to be really great that nobody's thought of yet. And so we can just bring that into the room. And then, the brilliance of the room goes, yes, yes, yes. Right. And when we feel a good idea, we get excited about it. Like everyone starts to like connect to it and go, yeah, that's good. Let's go down that road and let's look at that. And so it's just about saving people the hard road if we don't need to go down it in any area of life.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the book. So the book, The Soul Frequency. So it's organized into 4 primary sections: truth, release, experience, and align. And can you briefly walk us through each of these phases?
Yes. So what I started seeing happen in the room was a predictable process, right? And that process is outlined in the book. So I talk about really I went through my own journey of working this process before I was shown this process. So I like to, isn't it fun to work with people who have like been on the court, right? Like they've done the work themselves. So I'm a person that's gone through these powerful transformations in my own life myself. And so anything that I share with people is from a place of like, I've also been there and I've also walked the walk. And the first pillar, truth, there's something very powerful about getting to our truth, like understanding what we so often are influenced by what other people think and feel in our lives, even the people that raised us, right? And the people we're in business with and the people we're dealing with. And we also, it looks like a ping pong ball sometimes, like in my consciousness, where we're just being bounced around to like, oh, this person thinks this is a good idea. And that person thinks that's a good idea. And this, and I should be doing this and that. And it's just all over the place. And like you said, we're not connected to our own GPS system, our own intuition really powerfully. There's a lot of ways that we get disconnected from that in life. And then we're always looking for how we need to be in the world and what we need to be doing. And so this pillar about truth is about really connecting to what is your inner truth. And 9 times out of 10, we need someone to guide us there. We need someone that can see that for us and reconnect us to that, because it's so not natural, the way that we're raised in the world these days, to be connected to that. And so when we connect to that truth, something very powerful happens. It's usually like the most massive aha moment. It's like, oh my gosh, like I never saw life the way I do now. I never understood why I've made the choices I've made in my life. And now I see something different than what I've been living. And it can be in any area of life. It can be in all areas of life for some people. On the tail end of that comes release. And it's a natural progression. Like if I said to you, what's something like a big truth that you came across in your life? You would naturally start to tell me how you changed your life because you realized that truth. And so release is looking at what doesn't work with that truth, right? Like what's not in alignment? Am I in a bad business, relationship? Am I in my health suffering because I'm in a bad relationship, or because I'm doing a job that I hate every day and it's misery to me and this is literally making me physically ill? I mean, there are powerful realizations we have. And then I take people through a process, because release is scary for people. Change is scary for people. And I make it really easy. I take people through a process, and this is key. The reason we don't want to get rid of things or release things or change things is because we don't know what's on the other side.
Yes.
Right?
I do not like change.
Right. Nobody does, right? Nobody does. I mean, I've never met anyone that's like, yeah, let's just change everything, right? Nobody does. But here's the cool thing is that when I show people what's on the other side, like, okay, if you release this or if you change your job, you know what I mean? This is what's going to show up in your life. Like this is predictably what's going to show up in your life. And that is exciting to somebody. It makes it so much easier, right? Yes. It makes it so much easier to make the changes that we know are better for our health and our life. And so I just guide people through that in the book. And the third pillar is experience, which is literally your experience of life changes. The frequency, the energy that you live at, and the energy that you embody. Like, have you ever gone to a party and you just see someone across the room and they've got the best energy and you're just like, I want to meet that person. Like that person seems so cool and has the best energy. You start to radiate a more positive, alive, vibrant energy, which then in turn draws things to you, right? Like someone at a party coming up to you, hey, like, I want to meet you. You're this, or it's amazing what people draw in when they're radiating great positive energy. And that starts to happen in people's lives. So people will tell me all the time, like, oh my gosh, I just walked in somewhere and some random stranger walked up to me and offered me this, or, these things that people, they call me and they're like, this is a miracle. Like, I don't even know how this happened. And I'm like, it is a miracle, yes, but it's also energy. And it's a state of being in true alignment with who you are. And that's the fourth pillar, which is called align, which is like if I equate this to the way I visualize it in my head is like when you go to a chiropractor and your back's out and you may be having pain, but you may not be. You may just be a little bit out of alignment. And the chiropractor puts you back into alignment and it's like, right? You feel the energies run through your body. You're like, oh, it's so great. I didn't realize how bad I felt before. That is energetic alignment within ourself, right? So when we put ourself into energetic alignment, it's like the fast pass to anywhere, right? That you want to go. It just feels like I've never felt so good in my whole life. And it's amazing. And now I see so much more for my life. Because when we don't feel good in our body or we don't feel good in our life, it's very hard to see more for ourselves. It's very hard to live a life that we feel great about. It's a what I call a downward spiral that you live on. It's like it keeps getting just a little bit worse. And I like to change that spiral to an upward spiral where it just keeps getting better and better and better.
Yeah, and a lot of times you're not sure if you're making the right decisions, like in your personal life and your business life or your career, and you really need someone like yourself to be able to make the right choices for you. And I love when I first spoke to you that you talked about how, you know, your energy is like really high in alignment and you're kind of, you know, soaring in the clouds, and that you're going to align my energy up to where you are. And then, you know, you just kind of take off with whatever your goals are in your personal or professional life. And I thought that was just a wonderful analogy that I really connected with.
Yeah. And it is, we don't understand that we are always like vibrating like a tuning fork with everything we're around in our life. And so sometimes like one of the most powerful things people can hear is, this is not yours. Because sometimes I have people talking to me about things that are going on and it's literally not their energy. I'm like, this is somebody else that's in your life that is having this effect on you and it's not you, right? And people go, oh my gosh, it's not me. I mean, just that little bit of separation from like, oh, this is not me. This is not something I'm creating. This is something someone in my field is creating. And so when I connect with my clients, I have like a really kind of tight relationship with my clients and I'm there for them so much so because you never know when you're going to have the breakthrough. You never know when things are going to up level. And so I feel like my life purpose and my deepest honor is to be there at those times, right? So people can reach out to me and I will help, you know, get you there in the fastest manner so that we're not stuck in the in-between stage, which happens to people. We get stuck in our stuff and we're like circling in it, you know, and people spend years in their entire lives circling in their stuff and never freeing themselves of that. And it's like, that's not your best and highest life, you know, here on the planet. And so why spend our time in misery or discomfort when we don't have to?
Absolutely. And I love working with you also because your energy is so clear. Like when you're speaking and when you're talking with me or whoever you're talking with, I know in my own experience, you know, I'm talking about something, you're like, no, you need to do this. No, you need to do that. No, use this accountant, blah, 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 or whatever the case may be, or break up with that guy. You know, it's really interesting. It's very, very clear. It's just very, I don't know, like reassuring, and you just are so clear on your ideas and what someone needs to do in their life. It's just like, it just is so clear to you in your head.
Yeah. And that's how, I mean, I have like, I call it the motherboard. Like I work very fast. Like the energy is very fast through me. So I can see the landscape. It's like standing on a mountaintop and looking out over the whole city. I can see all the players and I can see all the landscape and I can see, you know, what needs to go where on the chessboard to make it all run and go and be positive for the person that I'm working with, which is ultimately always the goal. Like for you to live your best, highest, excited, joyous, you know, high frequency life that you feel great in. And I have 20 years of business experience, like aside before I ever started doing this work. And so it's interesting how those have coincided. You know, I use a lot of like my practical, you know, that I've experienced in this life business experience, but I also then have that bird's eye view where I get lots of information on business. And so all of that kind of comes together for the betterment, you know, of people's lives.
So the book, The Soul Frequency. So who is the book written for exactly?
It's written for people who find themselves in a state of like discomfort, and it can be with your physical body. I mean, I talk a lot about my struggles with my physical body, and in my younger years of life, I really am very vulnerable and open about my process of transformation. And I am with my clients too, because I never want anyone to feel like I'm speaking from a place that I haven't experienced. Like I've gone through these things, and when we have to make big choices in our life, I've done them too, right? And it really helps to have somebody holding your hand metaphorically saying like, I've been there, you know what I mean? And here's how this is going to go down, and here's how you're going to get through it. And so that's why I wrote the book, is to really just say like, this process of transformation is possible for anyone. And it goes through the doorway of health in the physical body, and really how we've created our lack of physical health in our life, and that is really a catalyst and a wake-up call to some much deeper disconnections that need to be looked at. And once those are healed, everything heals together, right? Our emotions, our mind, our hearts, our bodies. And so for people like, a lot of people are, I hear this all the time. I've gone from doctor to doctor. I've gotten tests, for this and tests for that. I have mysterious illnesses, or I have a diagnosis, and it just seems like nobody can help that. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of that. I've spent all my money, you know what I mean? Just in search of the physical. And so for anybody that has gone through that experience on any level, this is a book to read, because this is talking about the things that really make an impact when that type of thing is going on in people's lives. Struggling with weight, struggling with physical health, not getting answers we need, because most always in those instances, there is an emotional, mental, energetic block that's going on that is literally stopping anybody from being able to heal the physical body.
Absolutely. And that's so important. That's one of the reasons why I host the Supercharged podcast talking about energy and bioenergetics, because we know that childhood trauma and trauma at any time, really, emotional trauma dramatically impact our physical health. Yep. And one way to address trauma is energetically and bioenergetically. Yep. And so there's many different ways to approach working with energy, and you have one approach, there's other approaches, but it's so incredibly important for anyone dealing with emotional issues or trauma or abuse to be addressing that energetically or bioenergetically, and not just with a therapist. Like I've worked with therapists over the years, many different ones, just for self-help, going on a self-help journey. But working energetically, I've never had changes as quickly or as rapidly working on the energetic level as I have with like doing therapy.
Yeah, and you know what that is because therapy, I think therapy is great and it has its place. But therapy is talking at the level of the brain. And so when we are in low frequency patterns, like low energy patterns, we are in cyclical patterns, meaning we are circling in emotions like sadness or frustration or grief or shame or anger. And people will say like, oh, I keep dating the same person over and over again, or, oh, I keep having the same thing show up in my life in different ways, like at different times in my life. And that's just an energy pattern, right? And so at the higher frequencies, when we change our energy, like when I connect with someone's energy and bring them to a higher frequency, those patterns aren't the same anymore, right? Those patterns shift and change. But when we're in talk therapy, we're talking to the brain. And so what's happening is we're talking the pattern, right? And each week we show up and talk the pattern.
Yeah, you're only talking about negative things for the most part.
Right.
You're mad about this, you're talking about mommy and daddy, or it's like always, or how they were mean to me. It's always negative stuff. You're not focusing on the positive.
Right. And it's also releasing the pattern, right? It's like, isn't it cool to go and have someone be able to release the pattern? And then you don't need to talk about the pattern anymore. The pattern's gone and you're not experiencing that in your reality. And that, to your point about energy and why we need to like look at these emotional, traumatic things and release the energy patterns around them. It's not that we need to re-experience what happened. People are oftentimes feel very cautious and afraid to look at some things that have been painful in their life. But I just always like to send the message that true energy healing means you dissipate the pattern or you release the trauma without re-experiencing it. It's like it can go away like that. Mm-hmm. Like something that you've struggled with for decades can just disappear because it's disappearing out of your energy system. And so that's what's so powerful. And this is, you and I are on the same page that this is the next wave of understanding the human experience and how to heal our minds, bodies, and spirits and hearts and things like that, is that it doesn't have to take forever. And when you are working at the level of energy, it just doesn't. It happens really, really quickly.
Damn it. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on therapy. It's just,
You're like, I get a refund. I just realized energy works easier and faster.
yeah, not a total waste. It's good to go on that, learning about yourself and whatnot, but there's more than one way to skin a chicken. So let's talk about how your approach works with weight loss and how it differs from, other ways to tend to weight loss.
Yeah. So again, after seeing hundreds of clients, and I in person at the time, so I would have them come into my office and I would sit with so many people, and pretty much like, even if someone was struggling with a physical ailment, they still also were like, and I'd love to lose 20 pounds, right? Or, and I'd love to, there was always that adjunct, like that would be nice, right? And so I just started seeing patterns in why we keep extra weight on our body. And it's a lot of times a defense mechanism, and it's a lot of times covering a truth that we don't want to look at or haven't looked at in our life or haven't been guided to. And it's a protection, and there's always a reason why it's there. And that's what I started seeing in the room, is everybody's reason is different and unique to them. And I just started seeing, literally, like when I would sit with somebody, this is why. And so as I started communicating, this is why, like we started doing some work around the this is why, and it became a natural inclination for people to choose different nourishment from a different frequency of energy, right? Like once we got rid of that, like I said, that which can happen instantaneously. Like sometimes me just telling somebody, like, here's why this is, would create a shift that was like instantaneous in that moment. Like, oh my gosh, this is the reason why. Like our brain wants to know why. Like, why am I struggling with this? Why do I always struggle with this? And so doesn't, So there was just a lot of powerful stuff that was happening in the room with shifting this. And so when we get to that unique why for us, and we're able to kind of do some work around it. And again, it's different for everybody. Sometimes it takes some people a month. Sometimes it happens instantaneously for people. Sometimes there's multiple things within that one why that need to be looked at. So I see that, and we just go right to what the source is instead of, really laboring over food. I mean, it's important. It's important knowledge. You should eat organic. You should know about what foods are healthy. I'm not discounting that at all. I'm just saying if there's an ongoing back and forth, like, on again, on a diet, off a diet, on a cleanse, off a cleanse, like this yo-yo of back and forth struggle, there's something else going on. It's not about the food.
Yeah, and I want to talk about my own personal experience with retaining weight. So I had, maybe if anyone that's been following me for a few years might have noticed I was a little bit fluffier earlier when I first started my website and podcast. And I had about, 20 extra pounds on me because I was with an ex-husband who was emotionally abusive to a degree. And you keep this weight on to kind of insulate yourself energetically. It's almost like it protects you to a certain degree. And when I finally divorced him about 3 years ago, then I instantly, it was amazing, like within a few months, shed the extra like 10, 20 pounds that I had on. And then I started working with you about like 3-4 months ago. And again, I shed another 10 pounds and just feeling a lot better about my decisions, feeling better energetically to a degree. And I just started making better choices, better eating choices, wanting to take care of myself more, wanting to work less, and just started making these little incremental changes and ended up losing 10 pounds as a result of that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And, congratulations, because it's like those things we don't see. Like prior to you and I talking, like we say to ourselves, like once you see it, you're like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Like why I was, keeping some extra weight on my body because of these things. But we just don't have the awareness sometimes to see ourselves. Like it's hard. We need a mirror for that. We need somebody to say to us like, it's because of this, this, and that. And let's tweak these a little bit and watch what happens just naturally, right? It wasn't like I gave you a meal plan and you were like, okay, I have to follow this. Like we didn't even talk about food.
No.
Right. And so it just naturally happens when we can see what is really at the root cause of this and start to have some, gentle shifts with that. It's a natural byproduct. So that's what I started to tell people, and I started to see. And, people come to me and they'd say, what should I be eating? And I want to lose weight. And I'm like, weight is a byproduct of a transformational process I'm going to take you through. You will lose weight, but it'll be the last thing you talk about. So I would ask people when they'd come in to see me, I'd work with people for 12 weeks and I'd say, tell me what's most important. And they'd be like the weight. And I'd say to them, at the end of this 12 weeks, that'll be the last thing you talk about. And so then I'd ask them at, week 12, I'd say, what did you get out of this process? And almost every single person didn't even mention the weight, and they all had lost weight. So we're looking sometimes in a direction, but what we're really looking for is a process of discovery. And when we find that, like I said, it shifts all areas of life in the most beautiful ways. More money, more success, weight comes off, you know what I mean? Happier relationships, meeting a new person, all that starts to happen in people's lives.
Yeah, and I think it's really about nourishment from within. Many times when people have a weight issue, they've got trauma in their past, they're stuck in these compulsive patterns where they feel stressed and they eat, or they feel sad, they eat, depressed and they eat, or just generally not taking care of themselves as well as they could because they're at like a low frequency. Yeah. And it's just amazing what can happen when you do this type of work where, like I said, you're not even really thinking about making changes or thinking about weight loss, but these changes just start happening. You start making better choices for yourself.
Yeah. And it feels good inside. So none of the changes that get made, like everybody's experience is like, oh, this feels better to do it like this, right? It feels better to have clarity on my business. It feels better to live my life, in alignment. It's like getting that, chiropractic adjustment for your energy. So when, different choices and changes can seem scary, but not if they feel good, right? Yes. Those are the good ones. Those are the ones where like, oh, yay. Like if someone's like, here's $1 million, like free for you today, that's a great change, right? It's like, fantastic. I'll take it, So it's starting to look at change and choices from a positive standpoint that it only gets better.
Yeah. And my point I was trying to address before was that when we have a lot of trauma in our childhood or emotional issues, that dramatically affects our choices today. And it can be difficult to access that in therapy, difficult to pinpoint what is the trauma and how that's affecting you today. It's very difficult for a lot of people to admit that they have trauma, especially men or women too, of course. But it's difficult to make those connections and release them in a way that is maybe, I don't want to say economical, but easy and simple.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I think we talked about this, early on when we talked. There's basically like these energetic lines between things that have happened in our past and current day. And those energetic lines, so like when you look at someone's life today and they say, well, I don't like this, or this is not working the way I want to, I can go right back to like where this belief set or where this trauma happened that caused what's going on today. So we just don't see that it's like, by not addressing the trauma, it doesn't go away. It's at work in your life underneath, the surface in so many different ways, right? So it's not like we're just like, oh, we're done with it. It's in the past. Like all is occurring right now, and it's occurring in your life. And oftentimes it's holding you back from the things that you think you want or say you want in the world. And so we can just dissipate that energy, and that's what's so powerful. And you will naturally make a different choice when that energy is healed and that time is healed. And like I said, it just feels amazing. It feels good.
Yeah, I know that so many people can identify with this, but there are so many people listening, so many of the thousands of clients I've worked with, are eating an amazing diet, perfect diet. They are taking really amazing high quality supplements. They're exercising, they're trying to sleep, they're trying to reduce stress, meditating, yoga, doing all these things. And they still aren't at the weight that they want to be at, or they have serious health issues, which they can't seem to get to the bottom of, which they can't seem to address. And you really want to be thinking about addressing these on the energetic level or on the bioenergetic level, because that is really the future. You want to tend to the physical, you have to tend to the physical body, nourish it and whatnot, but you have to tend to the energetic as well to really get to the emotional aspect of what's causing your health issues or physical issues.
Yeah. And it's so true. It's so beyond true. And there's so many different types of energy work. And what's really cool, like with the book that I wrote, it's taking your mind along for the ride too. Because some types of energy work is so powerful and it moves the energy, but our mind is still stuck back with the way things were. Like we're still thinking in old ways. And so, that's why I wrote the book, because I'm like, let's take the mind on the journey too. Like I believe in having many different energy practitioners. I think that is the wave of the future. And so many people work with energy in different ways, and it's so powerful.
I do. I have a few different energy practitioners.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most of the people I know do, and they all complement each other, right? It's like they all feed in, and sometimes you look at like what the three practices or the two practices are saying, and it's like, oh, this makes the whole. This makes me understand this. And so, things like even like reading my book or reading books on energy, that's also bringing the brain along too, which is powerful, right? Like having the brain have a shift in the way it's thinking and the way that it's feeling about this, while you're also getting all this amazing work done, you know what I mean, on your emotions and your body. And so it's just bringing the whole you to the conversation of energy. And that's what my main intention was in the book, is like, let's just like get comfortable with this conversation, because it's a powerful one. And it's one that is literally 10 years from now going to be like, oh yeah, everybody knows about that. Right. So you don't want to suffer for 10 years until the everybody knows about it stage. You want to, embrace it now.
So in your book, you distinguish between what you call an outside in versus an inside out approach to healing. Can you talk a little bit more about this?
Yeah. So the outside is, we are, like I said, the physical, right? Like we're always looking at how to fix the outside of us, and like, oh, what do I need to eat? And like, how do I fix my physical body? And I take an inside out approach, which is, let's go right to the source, the energetic source, and shift that, and everything moves outward. Right. So we get the physical manifestation, but it comes first from the energy healing at an energetic level, healing at an emotional level, a mental level, and then a physical level, rather than saying, let's address the physical. And we've got all this other stuff going on under the surface, and we're not really looking at that. Or we're saying, okay, once the physical gets done, then I'll look there. It's not the way that the system works. It's not the pecking order in the energetic.
No, everyone's doing it backwards.
Yeah, it's backwards. It is. And it's hard. That's what makes it hard. When you're trying to, I say, roll over the top of everything else to affect a physical change, you're like rolling over the top of everything else. Where if you just do the work on the inside first, the outside becomes almost effortless. It becomes like the natural byproduct. Like, oh, this isn't just in alignment with who I am now. Like my body's healthy because I'm healthy inside of me. And so we just have had it backwards. And I think thankfully, like so many people are starting to talk about, like, we've got to look in a different place first. Right. And this shouldn't be something that people are struggling with. Like, it's not meant to be that. That's not, unfortunately, healing and struggling has become like one and the same for people. Like, oh, the healing journey, it's so hard and it's so difficult.
It takes so long.
It takes so long. And I'm like, no, then you're not going about it in the right way, because it really doesn't. And when we start to change our thinking about that and how we perceive that, it speeds up even more.
Yeah, and that's why I've been talking for years about, heavy metal detoxification and taking supplements and doing all this physical stuff. And I was really frustrated professionally working with people and seeing their change slow, and their progress very, very slow. And everyone wants fast, Amazon results,
Yeah.
1 day shipping. And so do I. I'm the same. I don't want things to take forever, but you have to add that energetic component to your healing program if you want those fast results. You really do. If you want to address the trauma and the issues that are causing those physical problems for you.
Yeah. And I always say there's nothing to be afraid of. There's really nothing to be afraid of. Like that's the only thing that holds us back from it, is the fear of it. Like we have a lot of cultural fear around our emotions and around what we've been through in life. And when you do this the right way, there's really nothing to be afraid of. I've never, ever, I've worked with hundreds of people one-on-one in a very deep process. And I've never had anybody like do anything other than just thank me up and down. Like, this has been the most incredible experience of my life. You made this so easy. You made this so, so it's like, those are the outcomes that I get on a daily basis. So when you're doing it right, it's wonderful. You know what I mean? It is. It's empowering. It's freeing. You feel free from like things that have held you back. And like, ultimately, nothing feels better than that. I've learned over time, like we all want certain things in life, but it all boils down to the freedom to be, freedom to love, freedom to live a life that feels true to us, freedom of time, right? These are fundamental. Like, why do people want more money? Because they want freedom of time. They want to be able to do whatever they want and go where they want and enjoy life in the ways that they want. So So when we set ourselves free through this process, that's when life becomes so sweet and so beautiful.
Yeah, and time is so short. Like our time on
It
this
is.
planet is so short. I can't believe I'm 46. I just turned 46 on August 5th. And I'm like, God, I really think I've got to get my act together. I've got to really be not only living my life purpose, but just taking it to another level with like helping. I want to help millions of people heal themselves and heal their bodies and detox heavy metals. But not only detox heavy metals, but just feel better emotionally in doing that on an energetic level. I think that's really, because it's helped me so much. And that's why I'm doing shows like with you and talking about Nest Health Bioenergetics and things like that, doing the Supercharged podcast, because it's really the next level. It can take you to that next level where you want to be and meeting your health goals and feeling good emotionally and just fulfilling your life purpose.
Yeah, it's so true. And I just can't recommend enough, like taking the journey with that. It works quickly and it's so worth it, because the hardest thing is that we can't see what is possible, right? Even if we don't feel good in our body, if we're not feeling good in our life, we literally from this vantage point have to just trust, because we can't always see where we can go and what's possible. And so when you start to work on the energetic level, you start to see the glimpses of the possibility. And that's what I'm always giving people too, is like, here's what your life could look like 3 years down the line. And once you see that and you connect with that and it's what you've always wanted, it's like, get me there. Let's do this. Like everybody feels that way. Even people that have told me like, oh my gosh, all my life I felt so afraid. Once you show them like, this is what you could have, they're like, let's do this. Like, I'm ready. So that's the power of like NES Health and, you know what I mean? And the work that I'm doing and so many wonderful people are doing in the world.
Yeah. And, and when I've been working with you, you kind of lay out certain choices that can be made. And some of the choices, it's not easy. Like it takes some bravery and courage to make the right choice or cut certain people out of your life or choose the right business partner or what have you. It can, you have to have some maturity and courage to make those choices that are going to get you to where you want to be.
But you know what's so cool about it is like it's like planting a seed, because sometimes like people go, wow, I can see that, but I don't want to make that choice today. And that's perfect. But as you continue down the trajectory, like that choice sometimes just evolves naturally. Like there's a point at which maybe a year down the line where that choice just becomes, oh yeah, like this is the right choice to make. So sometimes we just get seeds planted, you know what I mean, for different things in our life. And then it just becomes a natural progression of like, oh yeah, now this feels totally right for me. And so it's like I plant seeds and then the other person's consciousness does it in the right time, right? So it's not about we have to make all the choices today. It's like, let's see where we're going. And if we choose to say, I don't want to go there, that's fine and great too, right? Yeah. But it's like, then we're making an aware choice, right? Then we're like, okay, I'm fully aware and present in this. And that's what's powerful in your life. Like, so it's not about changing everything overnight at all. It's about being conscious of where you're at and where you want to go and allowing those things to evolve, right? Like, and knowing what's possible, because that's powerful.
And you can also feel confident if you like when you're working with you, there's a choice you have to make that is difficult or you might be fearful about it. You can be confident you're making the right choice, even though it may be difficult. You're like, if I do this, it's going to be painful, but it's going to be much better on the other side.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you can see behind door number 2.
Yes.
Sometimes in life you're like, I don't want to close door number 1. I can't see what's behind door number 2. So seeing it helps for sure.
Yes. So tell us where we can get the book, The Soul Frequency, and where we can learn more about you.
Yeah. You can go to get the book. You can go to thesoulfrequencybook.com. And there are 4 cool bonuses with the book as well. Like there's a workbook to go through and do all the work while you're reading the book and some other cool things. You can find out more about one-on-one coaching at thesoulfrequency.com under programs, which is where I still see people one-on-one. Here's a copy of the book. Can I see the book?
Oh, yes. Let's see it.
So the book is a great place to start to like get a feel for the work. And I always say the book, kind of starts the process for people. And what I find is that people call me from all over the world and they just say, I'm supposed to work with you. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I need. This is the next level. Like people tend to feel that inside of them. Like, oh gosh, she just said something, or there's something about her that that I need to do this. And so if you feel that pull, you know what I mean, then there's a reason for it.
I felt that too. I felt like I went to a conference in San Diego called Digital Marketer, and I was at a dinner with Dr. Eric Zielinski and Robin Offenshaw and some other people. And I met you and I was talking to you, and I thought I was coming to dinner to like meet Robin Offenshaw, but I was like, I came to the dinner to meet you, to start working with you, you know, and I felt that really, really strongly. I felt kind of a gravitation towards you. And so really, really happy that I'm working with you and still continue to work with you. And I highly, highly recommend that anyone listening go out and get the book, read it. And if you're able to work with Shauna, it will completely change your life and you will not regret the decision. I assure you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Wendy Myers. You can learn more about me at myersdetox.com. I have hundreds of podcasts, hundreds of articles all about health and wellness. And please take 2 minutes to go to iTunes to leave a review for the Live to 110 podcast. It would be so appreciated. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week.